Good morning, everybody. You should be able to hear me. Thank you very much for joining our webinar this morning. It's titled, as you can see here, GCloud 12: Finding and Buying GIS and Web Mapping to Support Cloud-First Strategies. Before we begin this morning, we are recording the webinar, so don't worry if you don't want to take too many notes. After the webinar, we'll be sending you a recording, which you're very welcome to share with your colleagues as well. During the webinar, please do ask lots of questions. You should see the questions panel in the webinar interface. Do ask questions throughout, and we've got some time at the end to review those and go over those. When we end the webinar, you should have an exit survey pop up in your browser. It's just a few questions. If you could answer those, that would be excellent. It just gives us that feedback and allows us to continue to make good webinars for you, really. We're planning on about 30 minutes today, so just to give you an idea about how long the webinar should last. Yeah, maybe a few minutes longer, but about 30 minutes. So to introduce myself, my name is Fergus Craig. I'm Business Development Manager at Cadcorp. I work with some of our local authority customers and commercial organisations such as insurance companies and also our housing customers as well. I'm joined today by my colleague Simon. Simon, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Fergus. Good morning, everyone. My name is Simon Parker. I am pre-sales team leader at Cadcorp, and this morning I'm going to provide a software demonstration of some of the services that are available from the GCloud framework.
Great, thanks, Simon. So we're going to turn our cameras off for the time being, and we may turn them on again towards the end of the presentation, but it just allows you to see the presentation in full screen rather than looking at us instead. Okay, so I notice, well, first of all, an agenda. What are we going to go through today? So we're obviously talking about GCloud and talking about GIS and web mapping specifically. So we're going to look at what is GCloud, why use the GCloud, how to do it. We're going to show you how to actually do it, how to access it, how to find the services that you're after. I'm going to hand over to Simon, who's going to provide a demonstration of the GCloud services that Cadcorp offer, so you can see those and you can see the different applications. And then at the end, we'll have some time for some questions. So like I said, do continue to ask questions in the questions panel. So we've got loads of people joining us today, which is excellent. We noticed some of you are Cadcorp customers. Some of you look like you're new to Cadcorp, so we thought we'd start with a quick introduction, just so you know who Cadcorp are and what we do. So Cadcorp is a UK-based software development company. We're based in Stevenage, just north of London, and we create the Spatial Information System, and we call that Cadcorp SIS. That's the family of applications that Cadcorp provide to our customers. And our customers tend in the UK to be in housing, government, emergency services, insurance, and infrastructure. So these are the main markets that we work with in the UK. We have partners and distributors that use Cadcorp technology for their customers around the rest of the world as well. But yeah, in the UK we talk to these sectors, and we can see many of you from these individual sectors joining us today, which is great. So we concentrate, the Cadcorp SIS technology is a web, mobile, and desktop mapping application, essentially. So the desktop is a geographical information system, and then we've got web and mobile mapping applications, which we'll talk a little bit more about later on as well. We focus on creating these applications and implementing them for our customers in the UK. So we have a couple of poll questions to start us off this morning. We always think it's good to be interactive and hear from you, and it would be really great if you could answer the question you should see on your screen now, which is, has your organization previously purchased services from GCloud? So we thought this would be a good question to ask, just to get a view of our audience and to understand whether other areas of the organization have been involved in GCloud. It often makes the whole process very straightforward if they have. and the results are still coming in, which is good. So do continue to click that button. So a big percentage of you don't know, which is interesting. So just under 40% of you don't know, which is fair enough. If you're focused on one particular area in the organisation, you might not necessarily know if other sectors, other parts of the organisation have used it. But I can see, yeah, 25% of people attending today do know that their organisations have purchased services from GCloud. So that's really interesting to know. Obviously, your organisation and your procurement teams potentially are aware of the process, so that makes it even easier. Great, thank you for answering that. And I've closed that poll, so I'm just going to launch the next one for you now, which you should see in front of you now. So we were really keen to get a better understanding, hence this question. So if your organisation was purchasing a new system, would you have a preference for a cloud system, a local on-premise system? So that's more of the traditional approach where CADCORP, for example, would install applications on your own infrastructure. You'd have full control in terms of updating that and maintaining that infrastructure, or don't you have a preference? And yeah, great, we can see the poll results now, and a vast majority of you have said cloud system, which is really interesting. A very few percentage of you have said locally hosted, and we can understand that. There's you know, there's some good reasons for that preference, and but also a percentage of you have said no preference either, which is interesting. But yeah, over 60% have said cloud, which is really interesting to hear about, and that kind of aligns with what we understand from talking to you and our other customers as well. Great, let me close that then. Thank you for answering those. So it sounds like many of you do have experience with GCloud, but just in case, and for those of you who don't, we thought we'd start with what is GCloud. So GCloud is a digital marketplace. It's a framework of almost like pre-tendered agreements between government and suppliers such as CADCORP. Buyers and suppliers still need to sign a contract, which we'll talk about in just a second, the call-off contract, and the GCloud is the cloud software and services element of this digital marketplace. So the digital marketplace is a wider framework, and the GCloud element is specifically the cloud software and services, as you can see on my highlighted items here. This is from the GCloud website. So that's specifically what we're talking about today, and we'll talk you through that in a bit more detail. This is what it looks like. You can see the web address here as well. You can go and have a look. It's all obviously open and available for anyone to look at in more detail, but it's at digitalmarketplace.service.gov.uk. That's the website you're looking for, and you can delve into that, and there's lots of information and obviously lots of supplier information on there as well, which I'll talk you through. So with government frameworks like this, a really good question, and one we often get asked, is it actually being used? And the answer to that is yes, it really is. This is a Power BI report on the digital marketplace sales that's available on the website as well, and you can clearly see that that in the last financial year, £2.4 billion were spent through the digital marketplace through GCloud. So it's really there is. I mean, you can see how it's broken down on this slide. So you can see that a large percentage of that, well, a significant proportion of that is large sort of, maybe it could be service contracts. But what we'd like to point out is that darker area, which is SME, which CADCORP is. So it's a really good way of public sector engaging with SMEs, which CADCORP really like, and customers who we've worked with through the GCloud have really appreciated as well. So why use GCloud is the next really important question. It's easy to use. Everything's available, which you'll see, and it's often a lot quicker than other procurement options because everything's already been done for you effectively. All of the agreements have been put in place, all of the pricing information's there, and the compliance, which is obviously an important element of it, in terms of EU and UK legislation, it's all complies with that process. So your colleagues in procurement and finance will be pleased to see that as well. The competitive pricing element is really interesting because all of the pricing is pre-published and set for the term of the contract as well. So you can have a look, which we'll have a look at in a second, and we'll have a look at some CADCORP pricing. It's all there, it's all available. You can look at CADCORP, you can look at all the other organizations who are offering services via GCloud, and you can see all of the pricing quite clearly. And it's a pre-approved contract as well, which is quite key. All of the call-off, it's called the call-off agreement, and the call-off, that contract has already been agreed, and it's already been agreed between the government and us or other suppliers, and it just makes the whole process a lot easier, referring back to point number one again. So and CADCORP can help with that call-off agreement as well. There's quite a lot of elements to complete. CADCORP can prepare that on your behalf and then send it to you for approval effectively. So we make it as easy as possible as well. So now we're going to have a look at the GCloud, and I'm going to give you a quick demonstration to talk you through how to get access to it and how to look at particularly CADCORP services. So you should now see my web browser, and I'm going to just go to Google. Obviously other browsers and other search engines are available, but if I just type in GCloud into Google, and then sometimes you get a few adverts along the top, but it's this digitalmarketplace.service.gov.uk digital marketplace that you're looking for. So we're going to click on this, and like I said, GCloud is specifically finding cloud hosting software and support. So it's this link towards the bottom that you want to click on next. And we're going to start a new search. So we'll talk about this as well, but the search terms are very important. So I'm going to start a new search. I'm specifically going to look at cloud software, and I'm going to search for services. So as you can see, there is 12,140 cloud software services available. So there's a lot of services on here. This time we're just going to have a look at CADCORP and search here, specifically for CADCORP. So we just look at the CADCORP responses, but obviously you'd want to look at some open search terms like web mapping or GIS or ordnance survey or mobile in here, and the search terms are very important because this will give you the results to look at in further detail. So CADCORP have 6 cloud software services available, and you can see these listed here. We'll have a look at these in a bit more detail, and Simon's going to show you what all of these are in a few minutes as well. So let's just have a look at CADCORP's web map in a bit more detail. We'll open up this, and straight away you can see the pricing information, which is very transparent and clear. You can see a list of features that CADCORP's web map offers, and there's a lot of information in here, the benefits, the service scope, and there's you can have a look at this in more detail. But the 2 key documents are the pricing document and the service definition document. So let's have a look at the pricing document. Let's open that up. It launches a PDF file that CADCORP have prepared and submitted to GCloud, and you can see the pricing information is very clear here, the subscription fee, and there's the setup, and it outlined exactly what's included in that. What's really important is the additional options as well. So GCloud is a prescribed service that CADCORP have offered to customers, but there's also a lot of flexibility built into it as well. So there's lots of options here to increase or decrease the service in terms of functionality and the service itself. So there's lots of options which you can have a look through. And then the other key document is the service definition document as well. So let's have a quick look at this one. And as you can see, it's 12 pages, so it goes into a lot of detail, and it gives you clearly all of the information that you need to understand what's included in the CADCORP SIS Webmap GCloud service. So that's how you access GCloud. That's how you have a look for a supplier and see all of the information. And as I said, as you saw, all of the pricing information is available on there as well. Okay, let's close that down and go back to my presentation. So we've worked with several customers over the last few years within the GCloud environment, and these are customers that have procured CADCORP services through this GCloud system. So as you can see, there's a real mix of organisations as well. There's some local authorities, such as Wilden, Arran and Rotherham. There's 2 housing associations, Richmond Housing Partnership and Citizen, who were previously known as WM Housing. And then we have 2 emergency services customers as well, North East Ambulance and Northamptonshire Fire and Rescue Service. So lots of different types of organisations can get access to GCloud. So government organisations and housing tend to be CADCORP customers that utilise the GCloud environment. So using GCloud itself, there's a lot of information on there. There's a step-to-step guide. The search, as I said, is important. If you're looking for web mapping applications, then these search terms, GIS, web mapping, ordnance survey, mobile, they work well. And if you type those in, you'll get results from CADCORP, and you'll get results from CADCORP competitors as well. Then you can contact CADCORP and ask for a demonstration, or you can look for our webinars to see the applications working. And then you can go through this process as well. That's assessing the services. You can award a contract and progress from there. So the contract itself is the Calloff contract, and as I said earlier, this has already been pre-agreed. It's available on the Digital Marketplace website for you to have a look at, and CADCORP can help you complete this as well. So we'll complete as much of it as we can, and then hand it over to you to sign and complete your elements as well. So GCloud 12, so GCloud 1 started, I think it was maybe 9 years ago, and GCloud 12, the latest version of this, has just been released in September, and CADCORP obviously within GCloud 12, and you can read more about it. We made a press release available at the time as well. So that's where we're up to. They get updated every so often to give the opportunity for suppliers to update services and information and everything else. So that's why we're talking about it today, really. So I'm going to hand over to Simon, and he's going to talk you through briefly each of these 6 GCloud services that CADCORP offer: CADCORP SIS Desktop, Map Data Service, the Spatial Database Service, CADCORP SIS Webmap Express, Webmap, and Notice Board as well. So whilst I hand over to Simon, he should be able to take control and share his screen now. Just to remind you, do use the questions panel. We haven't had very many questions coming through yet, but do ask questions, and we'll be pleased to answer those after the demonstration in a few minutes. Thanks, Simon.
Thank you, Fergus, and good morning, everybody again. So I'm going to provide you a demonstration of some of the services that are available through the GCloud framework. And to start my demonstration, we're going to take a look at SIS Desktop in the cloud and some of the data services that are available. So SIS Desktop in the cloud can be accessed as a virtual desktop application or within a web browser. And on screen here, I've accessed SIS Desktop in Google Chrome. Now, the application itself provides a full range of GIS functionality, including data creation, querying, analysis, and modeling. And it also provides extensive data format support, including ordnance survey spatial data. And a significant benefit of using SIS Desktop in the cloud is that increased accessibility. It's quick and easy to set up for remote and flexible working, as there is no hardware or resource requirements on your part. So let me now give you an overview of the application itself. So when CIS Desktop is launched, you're presented with a number of options. So you can start with a blank map with no data. Underneath, you might want to select a predefined map template with some Ordnance Survey mapping for Great Britain, or a template that includes OpenStreetMap. Or on the left-hand side, you can open up a project file that we've been working with recently. Now, if you're not already familiar with CIS Desktop, on the left-hand side, we see our list of layers that are available in the project. And to the right, we've got the main map window where we can view that spatial information. And at the top of the interface, we use the Microsoft Ribbon interface. So all the functions are organized into separate tabs for easier navigation. And then the final tab in CIS Desktop is Applications, and CADCORP provides free add-ins to extend the functionality of CIS Desktop. And all of these add-ins are pre-installed and available to use for CIS Desktop in the cloud users. So that was a quick overview of the interface, but what about data and project files? So this project file includes some base mapping from the Ordnance Survey. And if you're a member of the PSGA, for example, CADCORP can provide a cloud-hosted map data service for the premium Ordnance Survey data. Now, the benefit of utilizing this service is that CADCORP maintains that base mapping data on your behalf. So you haven't got the worry or the workload of maintaining that data yourself. So on the map here, I'm going to zoom into the city of Exeter in Devon. And as I start to zoom into the map, we'll see the different Ordnance Survey products that make up this particular data stack. And then when I zoom in close enough into the map, we'll switch from the premium data, which is served from my Webmap service, to the master map topography layer. Now, this layer can be included in that Webmap service if you just want it for background mapping. However, CADCORP can supply this layer as a vector service, and that means we can select features on the master map layer, but most importantly, you can use the layer to snap to if you want to create and digitize new data. But if you're not a PSGA member, we can still provide a similar service to you using the open data that is available from the Ordnance Survey. Now, you don't have to use these services if you don't want to. You can still use and manage your own data if that is your preference. So for vector data, whether that be Ordnance Survey, mapping, or your own business data, we'd recommend that you migrate this data into a cloud-hosted spatial database. The CADCORP Spatial Database Service provides two options. So you can have a hosted PostGIS database or a Microsoft Azure SQL database for use within GIS and web mapping software. And connecting to the database in the cloud is no different to connecting to a local installation in our software. So just as an example, for the Add Overlay Wizard, I'm going to connect to a hosted PostGIS database. I'm going to select my credentials, which are previously saved. And once connected, I'm going to load in some crime data into my project. But before I load that in, we're just going to name the layer crime data. So we can see that layer is added on the left-hand side, and I'm going to use the add theme functionality to style that data. So we'll choose my layer, choose the theme that I want to apply, choose a column, which is our crime type column in this example data set. It finds all the unique values in that column, and from here we can then theme the data accordingly. So we have a circle symbol, but for the colors, we can just pick a range of colors from our color brewer. And when I apply that, I've now connected to my PostGIS database, added some data, and also styled it as well, just like I would if the software was installed locally. Now, if you still have a requirement for to use flat files, every user is allocated 10 gigabytes of cloud storage space. And where you've got multiple users, this space can be accessed by all users in your organization, so you can still share these files. Now, CIS technology supports over 300 data formats. And if I access my personal cloud storage space, I can show you some of the formats that we support. So in this folder, I've got a couple of examples. So I have a CADCORP file there, but I also have a MIDMIF file of electrical charging points. I've got a tab file showing us the boundary for Exeter. I've got a shape file of flooding data. and I've got polling district data in a compressed KML, and I can drag and drop all of those different data formats from my cloud storage area into my project, and then use functions such as overlays and add theme, which I showed you just shortly ago, to theme that data appropriately. So it's still really easy to connect to a variety of data formats in the cloud. And then finally, once you've pulled in all your data and created your projects, you can save these project files to your cloud storage space for use by other users in your organization. But it's also worth noting that these project files can be used by other CADCORP applications, including Webmap and Notice Board, which I'll be showing shortly. And this means any changes you make to these files will immediately be reflected in these applications, making it easy to manage a desktop and web mapping solution in the cloud. So that concludes my overview of CIS Desktop in the cloud, where we also touched upon the map data service for Ordnance Survey data and the spatial database service for storing data in either a PostGIS or a SQL Server database. So let me now move on to Webmap Express. So Webmap Express is an easy to use, off-the-shelf GIS application for internet and intranet mapping. And it allows organizations to publish and share their map data over the web. So a user can zoom into an area of interest. So I'm going to zoom into the center of London. And in the top right-hand corner, you can switch between different base map options. So here I've got a grayscale version of the Ordnance Survey data, and I've also got some aerial imagery data as well. This data can be your own, or you can take advantage of that CADCORP map data service to provide the mapping here. Then from the main menu in the top left-hand corner, the user can turn on data layers. Now, if you're a social housing organization, you could be showing grounds maintenance data. If you're a local government organization, it could be adopted highways. Or in this example, we're looking at fire service data. And here I can view some fire incidents on the map, which is themed on the left-hand side that we can see by incident type. We can drill down further on the incident data by clicking on a feature, and we can see all of its attribute information, but we can also incorporate links to external resources as well, such as images, Word documents, PDFs, or links to other spatial references such as Google Street View. Then in the map, you can also use tools like Measure to measure areas and lines, and also send a map to the printer. But if your organization requires more capability, then CADCORP Webmap provides extra functionality for interrogating and managing data. And it also has a responsive interface for mobiles and tablet devices. It's got the same look and feel as Webmap Express, but it's got more tools. So if I zoom into the map, if we go to the center of London again, and open our menu in the top left-hand corner again, you might notice there are a lot more options available to me as a user. And this includes search by area, which gives the user the functionality to query data for an area of interest. So for example, I'm going to query my fire incident data. I'll draw my area of interest on the map. And once complete, it finds all of those incidents that intersect my area of search. We can see the table view of those results, and we can also download that data to a CSV as well. Local knowledge tells me information about a location. So in the background, it runs spatial queries against my business data, and then presents the results to me, to the user. So for example, it's telling me what fire authority I'm in. It's giving me some find my nearest type data. So it's telling me where my nearest incidents are. We're getting some statistics on the types and numbers of incidents that we've seen in this area. We've got data around response times, and we've also got some demographic analysis there as well. These are just some examples of what you can do with local knowledge, but you can set up your own queries depending on what data you have and what the business need is for the end user. Webmap can also be used as a reporting tool to allow members of the public, for example, to notify your organization of any issues or problems. So for example, it could be reporting potholes to a local authority or reporting antisocial behavior to a social housing organization. And for a select group of internal users, the platform could also be used for the management of data. So this tool enables users to create, edit, and delete features from a dataset in this web environment. So for some users, they don't need a desktop client when they can create and edit data in Webmap using a simple, easy to use interface. And then beyond the Webmap interface, you can use the technology to embed a map from Webmap into a website. And it only requires 2 lines of code to embed that map into a website. And you can also customize your embedded map with the controls that you need. So it could just be a static map, or you can make it interactive so that the user can pan and zoom on the map. And you can add all of these tools on the left-hand side. So we've got the pan zoom controls, we've got a scale bar, and we've got a key map, for example. And all of these parameters are simply controlled by adding an additional property to the embedded map URL. So that concludes my overview of Webmap Express and Webmap for sharing and interrogating map data over the web. Let me just show you one more service available from the GCloud framework. So for many of you, your organization will offer location-based services, and your customers will have an interest in knowing how location affects the services that they're able to receive. So your customers might access your website to find out information, typically about their home address. So it might be about when are my bins collected, or where is my nearest day center, or perhaps what is the crime level in my area. They want to find answers to these questions both quickly and easily, and they don't want to be navigating multiple pages on a website. So CADCORP's notice board meets this need by displaying information which is commonly requested by visitors to the website, but on a single page. Now on this sample website here, which could be your homepage, you can embed this address search. Now the visitor can type in their address of interest, or if they're accessing the website on a mobile device, they could use their device location. So I'm going to type in my area of search, and when I click on my result, Notice Board uses advanced spatial techniques to generate a personalized response to the user based on that selected location. And then these responses are provided as separate notices. So based on my selected location, this first notice here regarding waste tells me when my bins are collected. The notice underneath tells me whether my location is affected by building or environmental constraints, for example, whether I'm in a flood zone or not. To the right at the top there, we've got a notice about planning. So it's telling me about new planning applications near me. And users can also get more detail by clicking on this link, which can take us to a map in Webmap where we can view those planning applications on a map in this example. Underneath the planning notice, there are hot links to the NHS website here. So we can view nearby services based on that location I selected. So why maintain service information like this within your organization when you can just link to third-party websites for users to get that information? Underneath, there's a notice here about statistics about crime in my area. And then for the final example, if we just jump to the right there, we've got a find my nearest type search here. So it's showing my nearest primary and secondary schools at this location, but with optional links to view these locations on a map and a link to the Ofsted website where I can view that latest report. So to summarize, Notice Board provides that sort of intuitive, easy to use interface that can provide the answers to commonly asked questions on a single page. And it also provides an opportunity to improve that customer experience when accessing your website, and to encourage that sort of online self-service as a channel of choice. So I've now come to the end of my demonstration, and I hope I've provided you with a flavour of some of the services that are available via the GCloud framework. So I'm now going to pass you back over to Fergus, who will conclude the presentation and answer any questions you may have raised during the webinar. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you, Simon. You should now be able to see my PowerPoint presentation again, and thank you for asking lots of questions throughout Simon's presentation. We can see those, but do continue to ask them, and we'll come on to those in just a minute. So in summary, GCloud is an easy route for market for public sector organizations, housing, including emergency services. It just makes the whole process a lot easier. That's the feedback that we've had from customers that have been through it. As you've seen, there's a wide range of software and services available from the marketplace generally, but also from CADCORP specifically as well. You can see that there's all those different services that Simon's just demonstrated now. We can offer advice on the GCloud services and cloud migration as well. So please do get in touch with CADCORP, your account manager, or get in touch with CADCORP generally, and we can make sure somebody gets back to you and to invoke that discussion. So please do get in touch. So let's have a look at your questions. Thanks for asking them. we will review those now. So let's just have a look. We have a question from Karen. Will this better support remote working from home? We currently experience poor speed when using our GIS as the data is on a local server. Yeah, that's a really good question, Karen. I'm going to make an assumption that you're talking about desktop in the cloud. You might have been talking about, it depends exactly when that question came through, but assuming you're talking about desktop in the cloud, so desktop in the cloud is the application itself, and it works really well with CADCORP's spatial database service and the map data service, because that means that not just the application, but all of your data, all of your specifically GIS data is available in the cloud as well. If you continue to use your GIS data on a local server, that cloud instance of CADCORP Desktop is still connecting to that local server, so you may not see benefits in terms of the speed and the performance, but yeah, we do encourage you, if you want to go down that route, to move as much as possible into the cloud, and then yeah, absolutely you will, I'm sure you will see performance increases if all of your data is in that sort of cloud environment. With any of this, we really encourage our customers to test things out beforehand. So Karen, if you want to try it out, you can have a trial of CADCORP Desktop in the cloud and try it out, and you can make that decision yourself. I think that's the best way to do it. But thanks for your question. Andrew has asked several questions specifically about the level of access to the database. I'm assuming you're talking about the spatial database service. I think it would be good to take that offline and talk to you in a bit more detail. The GCloud statement says that, yeah, a level of access is made available for users, but as you can appreciate, not the full level of access is available because it is a CADCORP managed and hosted service. But let's have a further conversation about that, about what you need to be able to do, and let's look into that in a bit more detail for you. James has asked a question about SIS desktop example only showed vector data. What about raster data? 10 gigabytes doesn't sound that large considering raster, such as aerial, historical mapping, and other OS products. Yeah, James, that is a really good point. So it is 10 gigabytes. So first of all, I think you're talking about CADCORP SIS desktop in the cloud. And Simon mentioned that there's 10 gigabytes of storage space associated with that. That is 10 gigabytes per user, first of all. So if you have 10 users, that obviously is a lot more than 10 gigabytes. So do take that into consideration. But as I mentioned earlier, these CADCORP SIS desktop in the cloud works really well with the other cloud services that CADCORP offer. So the map data service especially, that would take all of that pressure in terms of space out of that storage area and allow you to connect directly to the CADCORP data service. There's other data services available as well, and you might well be aware that the PSGA, if you're a local authority, is going to allow you access to map data services in the future as well. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think you're going to be able to connect to services that provide you with that raster data, so you won't need to use the 10 gigabytes of data in the application environment itself. We have lots of other questions now, actually, but I did say this would take half an hour, and we've already gone over. So let's conclude here. I can see there's lots of other questions. We will get back to you directly. I think that's probably best. But thank you very much for attending today. It's been great to have so many people involved. Please do get in touch with CADCORP if you have any further questions. When I end the webinar in a second, you will get a questionnaire pop up, and that'll give you the opportunity to look at these cloud services in more detail as well. One of the questions in that questionnaire is, do you want more information about any of these cloud services and a further demonstration? And we can go into a lot more detail with you in that session. So do let us know if you want to know more, and we'll be pleased to get in touch. Thank you for joining us today, and we hope to see you at a future CADCORP webinar.